What's up, everybody? It is Friday, the 22nd of May, going into Memorial Day weekend, and I got some time off from my day job a little early to be able to just celebrate an early weekend. So, starting off the episode, I want to say thank you to everybody to who has been keeping up with me, listening to episodes, commenting feedback. I always want to thank anybody who's just following me. I don't like to use the word fans because I think we're all just equals here, right? We're in the community, the comic book community, and we want to just lift each other up. I try to do that anyway, and but I definitely appreciate everybody who pays attention to my posts or likes and comments and sends feedback. So thank you, and a very extra special thank you, since it's Memorial Day weekend coming Monday, to anybody who's served or a veteran. If you're listening, or if you have a family member who is a veteran as well, I just want to make sure that an extra thanks to them. I don't want to turn this into a political thing or anything like that. I know we all don't like war at all, and we currently have a bunch of them going on, but still there's people that are from this country that put their lives on the line. I have a grandfather who served in World War II, and there's not a very short distance you can go before you connect the dots to someone that a family or friend who has served and helped to keep our country's best interests at priority. So, and we are always, until they find a solution to complete world peace, and we never have to worry about ever having any friction with another country or anybody at that matter, we are always at risk of anything, whether it's us having to invade someone or someone invading us. We need the support of our veterans to be there to guide us to that. So, extra special thank you to them as well. I wanted to start off by just I'm trying to make the best podcast I can. I know there's so many of them out there. Every week I strive to make this thing better and more informative and more fun. And so I've got a lot of things in the works, networking with people through social media. I've got a lot of cool things coming along the way. This might be a little bit of a shorter episode this Friday, just because I already did one earlier this week, and just wrap up the weekend with some just kind of short and sweet and cover some things. So I do have a lot of things in the works and kind of a cool announcement coming soon. I do have a thing that I announced earlier when I started my social media about the 5 o'clock free comic giveaway. Glad that came out the first time, right? And I'm not forgetting that at all. So I have something big coming. I can't say. It's all about timing. So yeah, that's in the works. I got some new things coming in that I want to discuss, but they haven't arrived yet, and otherwise it'd be easier to discuss them currently. I do have a friend, so just a little insight into a little bit of my personal life. I have a D&D group, and call it nerdy, whatever you want to call it, that I participate in, and a group of friends that we get together when we can get together. That's always the problem for D&D players, is can you get a consistent schedule together? So we try to get together at least once a month and run a campaign and do all that fun stuff. And one of the members has written a book, and so right now I've got a whole lot of reading to do between comics and my campaign members book. He's actually the DM of the group, so big pat on the back to him for that. But he wrote a book, and I can't wait to read it and complete it, and then it may tie in great to the show. I just want to be able to talk about it because it's really cool. I've never actually known anybody on a personal level that's ever written a book, and that's really awesome of him. So I'd like to get on topic with that soon. But I do have other things that I did over the week. So Canoe Comic Book Day was Wednesday, like it always is. And I went to my Comic City. That's just been kind of like my go-to now. I feel like I can kind of just get a good, if there's something old and back issue, I tend to go to either eBay or I'm lucky to get it in a Whatnot auction somehow. So doing that. I mean, I should go to more of my local shops. It's just trying to squeeze it into my schedule. So, and, but yeah, I went to my local comic shop and looked at their new selections. And of course, this was the week that you could get Absolute Green Arrow, which was a big deal because it's already kind of like got this momentum that from the Absolute universe, from the Batman 1 sales and everything that's carried into this. They're already saying that this is outselling Batman 1. But I think because Absolute Batman 1 came off of just kind of like a let's come out with it, see how it does. People probably gravitated to a little slower. There we go. And now that it's the Absolute universe is growing and expanding and getting bigger, and it's just there's more things being unveiled about it. Now the Green Arrow is getting the Absolute treatment, and a lot of people, I think, we're just kind of waiting for it and let's go. So that helps the sales on that first issue. And there's a lot of people that are just kind of like, they treat it like the stock market, where they want to make sure it does well, because if they're going to buy it, then they have a hot commodity. If they want to grade it and sell it and all that whole thing. So, so I was fortunate enough to be able to get in, and they had a big stack of copies. Grabbed one. I have not had a chance to even thumb through it yet. So like I said, I've got a lot of reading to do, and I'm jumping back and forth between old and new, and still trying to sort out my collection now that I've got a whole bunch of stuff that arrived. I did get a couple big things on Whatnot that I posted about recently, including a huge Youngblood haul. So, and that may be teaser coming up, that part of something big coming. So, so that was my new comic book day. I grabbed a couple older things, some newer stuff. I actually wanted to, because I play D&D, I found that they have a whole new comic book line of D&D stuff through Dark Horse, and I found a couple, issues 2 and 3. For some reason, when I went into the comic book store and I saw they had Dungeons & Dragons comic books by Dark Horse, I didn't initially see issue 1, and maybe it was there and I just didn't grab it quick enough. It probably wasn't. So it's hard for me to want to jump into a title without the first issue. I think that's a big problem for all of us. And so if you don't see issue 1, you kind of are a little reluctant to start buying into it until you know that the first issue is going to be able to help start the story for you, or unless it goes into trade paperback. And so I just, I held off buying any of that because I kind of wanted to know about it. But I did buy issue 2 and 3 of the one storyline they got going on right now. And so now I've got to scour back to get issue 1. And I asked them if they had it, and they didn't. So I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll just sit on it for a minute. So that's another thing I got to start reading. And also I got to get some of the back issues of Absolute. I only started Absolute Batman when I know I could read issues 1 to whatever. So I got the trade paperbacks that are currently available. There's only 2 at this moment. And I did a whole weekend dive into that and got caught up after the second trade paperback. And then if I'm going to buy the trade paperbacks, I could do both. It's just I'm trying to divvy up my funds to make it where I'm getting something not repetitive. So I want to keep up with the Absolute Batman storyline and also buy the trades and the comics to try to keep like on pace with it. It's just it's so much. It's a lot of overload. And honestly, I truly feel like I probably have some sort of level of undiagnosed ADHD. I never got tested for. Nobody picked up on. I hear all these things and I know I should go to a doctor and get it checked out and make sure I'm not going and spreading false information that I have something I don't have. But you see all this input, and I feel like we almost all have it for some weird reason. So I can't sit still. I literally to sit and read a book. It takes me really having to be like, I have to dedicate my mind to this process. And so I've been doing pretty good. I have that was always my problem as a kid. I wanted the covers of comic books. I'd buy them and I'm like, this is awesome. Look at it. And then I just put in a sleeve, put in a board behind it and set it aside. And then I always just keep looking at them and thumbing through them for the art. I was more of the art and look at it thing than this pick up the story, because somehow the story always somehow gets to you. So yeah, that was always my problems, being dedicated to reading comics or reading in general. Some stories have to really, really grab my attention to get me to focus on them. So again, a lot of reading to do. So I also, I posted on TikTok last week, or yeah, within the week, that I went to Walmart and found a couple good deals on some figs, which I've been kind of getting back into the groove of things with the figures. If I'm not buying a book, I might buy like a cheap action figure, which really is kind of a conundrum since they're not cheap. So, but yeah, I found a couple, and the McFarlane toy Batman stuff, I never really gravitated to it. I mean, I thought it was cool. I bought my favorite rendition of Batman is the gray and blue suit, like the old school before they went like he looks like from Jack Nicholson Batman all black, which I thought was cool too. But I love the blue and gray, like it almost the older style, even like the Adam West style, but with suit, which was a little hokey. But I just for some reason that just felt like my childhood is the blue and gray Batman. So I found the McFarlane toy a few years ago and bought it and just kind of kept it in box because it's cool to look at. And I've always eyeballed them. The problem that I have when it comes to action figures is I like consistency across all brands. I know that's not a perfect scenario. So I got so many 6-inch figures with the G.I. Joe, like basically the Hasbro stuff. G.I. Joe, Marvel Legends, and then McFarlane had to step it up a notch and go 1 inch taller. So, or like half, so there's 7-inch. And it like how Batman is going to be like overwhelmingly tall over every single superhero or villain in the Marvel universe if you try to mix them up. And so that's like, I don't expect him to have to, succumb to what Marvel standards are. His stuff is fine enough as is. I mean, he puts the effort and the hard work into making a really awesome action figure. And honestly, you can get them at a pretty good price too. Still, I mean, to this day, there's some that drop in price pretty good, like in a pretty decent drop, which is why I lucked out at. So I went to Walmart, one of the Walmarts in my area, when I was kind of just driving around, and I checked out the clearance aisle, which is really, depending on the Walmart you're in, a hit or miss situation, because I was looking, and sometimes you just find junk in the clearance aisle, and sometimes you find like gold in there. And so I found a couple McFarlane action figures in there, some G.I. Joe stuff. I mean, just stuff I'm like, yeah, this has not been selling, so now you're moving it here. And they're not really, I mean, they are, but they're not. So the market value of things right now is really weird, because action figures 5 years ago were like $20, which I've said in previous podcasts is like kind of stupid expensive, but it is the cost of doing business. So, depending on the figure, and now they've rised up, and the tariffs really kind of screwed things up for everybody in terms of like, now we got to add this 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever amount to everything to account for that. And so all these stores were paying into that. Now the whole tariff thing is out the window, and it gets back to normal, but the prices of things, because they have to make their profits, and so they are trying to like dwindle them down slowly. So they're like bringing them back down to what they should have been, like the $19-20 range, which is still, if you're clearancing at that's kind of a slap in the face. Or I mean, it's just kind of like, if you're action figure collector and you're savvy enough to know what's going on, you're like, I'll just wait, because this is going to end up, and the action figure community that might be listening right now is going to say, just wait till it hits Ollie's or Ross. And we never had Rosses here for the longest time until the last 3 years, at least one nearby near me. So I never knew that there was this like trick to go into a Ross or Ollie's. We never really got any Ollie's. I'm in Michigan, so like things come to us late for some weird reason. We don't have a Buc-ee's. We just started getting Sonics in the last 15 years. So I'd see all these people post in the toy action figure toy communities like, oh yeah, I've scored this. Look, $7 for an action figure. I'm like, where? I'd never see this stuff. How? And so yeah, they've got Ollie's that are starting to spring up around here, and the Ross Dress for Lesses are starting to come in. And I've like, wow, where's this been my whole life? So I went ahead, and I'm just going to wait, but I did find the one that I posted, which was the Jeez, I'm trying to look at him right now. Captain Cold. Captain Cold. I want to say Mr. Freeze because they're almost like identical. Captain Cold is a Flash villain, and he's, I guess, questionably stronger than Mr. Freeze, realistically, because he has so much more technology to use at his disposal. Because you have to freeze the Flash in order to have him be a weakness, basically. So, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, and it was going for $14, which I'm like, that's not, why not? It's here. And then I scored big because when I went to the checkout, and I also grabbed a Joker that I posted on TikTok as well. And that's kind of a hot thing right now. So, and it was in the clearance aisle, but it wasn't clearance. So, oh well. It ran up for $7.42, which it's like, holy cow. And then it made me think, how much more in that clearance aisle is going to come down when I take it to checkout? Like, it's just one of those weird things they do. So be patiently on the lookout. I kind of talked about that in my TikTok post. Like, check the Walmart clearance aisles. Maybe you'll score a deal. Doesn't hurt to take it to the register. And if you realize it's still the price you don't want it to be, then maybe you're just going to have to 50-50 it at the checkout of, do you want to spend the 14, or if you luck out and get it for 7, maybe you'll get it for 9, who knows, right? So, yeah, that's always just a random, and I've seen this for other stores. Like, someone posted something a while back about buying certain tools and stuff at Home Depot, and there's like this app that you can use where you can go into the aisles and they have something that's there longer than it's supposed to have been, and then you go ahead and like scan it and you find out you can get it for like a penny, which I wish that was the toy figures right now. Like I said, I've been kind of slowly trying to build my action figure collection back up responsibly and safely and not a race. So I've got a couple that are supposed to arrive today that I'm super excited for, that I had before and it's sold and that whole thing. And yeah, so that's what I'm currently working on, is getting that to, I like looking at them, like posing them and all that fun stuff. And I'm kind of getting back to where I was at before with my collection. So it's just, if there's nothing excitingly going on with the comic books, then I will excitedly chase the action figure stuff. So, but yeah, be patient, keep an eye out, keep your ear to the ground on what's happening and moving and shaking around, because they just made an announcement not too long ago that one of the people working for Hasbro that was doing the G.I. Joe classified line is no longer there. Sounds like they're just kind of trying to like trim some fat on the payroll, I would assume. So now people are worried that the classified line is going to start kind of disappearing. And then, which I'm it'd be nice if they just release all the figures you want out of that G.I. Joe line and be done with it, because there's only so many more left they can do, other than like some really extra paint schemes they could put on other characters they've got. Because then at that point, I like having like a goal. I know I like seeing the finish line. I don't want to keep running. Like, where's this finish line? It's right there. Once they end the line, it kind of helps the value a little bit in some cases, because now it's like going to start getting scarce. You're not constantly chasing it anymore. And at the same time, it's like, well, at least now I can catch up because I'm like a very completionist mind, and I have to, once I get in deep with something, I have to continue with it. So that's been my fatal flaw, I guess, when it comes to something like that. But so yeah, we'll just see how that goes with the toy market in the long run. And then over the weekend, I wanted to use this episode to cover the Boys series finale, which means it's completely done unless who knows, they come up with more spinoffs or something. But so that was something I did watch throughout the week. When it came out Wednesday, completed the series. I still have other episodes to watch, but I've kind of like caught a little bit of every one of them in most cases. So, and understood what the story was being told. I mean, there's a lot of weird episodes in there, but before I get into that Boys series finale, and I'm not gonna, just so you know, no spoilers. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't even watched the series. I'm just going to kind of give my overall value and feel of what the series was without really ruining it, like the plot for anybody. So yeah, there was watching that. But then what's funny is that there's a lot. I mean, Amazon will surprise you with random shows or movies that come out, and you're like, oh, yeah, I can't believe I haven't watched that, or I haven't watched it in a long time. So after The Boys wrapped up, there was, I mean, like now you're kind of in this waiting period for Invincible to come back, which won't be for a while. So you just have to be patient and either turn on sports or take a walk outside. I mean, like it's nice, like nice weather's coming, so get out of the house, get away from a TV or a screen. But I did watch a couple random movies, like Disturbing Minds was on, like 90s cult classic stuff that wasn't hero related necessarily, but had a lot of people that were involved with a lot of stuff in the long run. So the one movie that I had actually never watched in any of my adult or teen years or anything like that was Cruel Intentions. It was like a big deal when it came out, and it had been a big deal for kind of a while. Like it was one of those teen movies, right, in the 90s. And so starring Ryan Phillippe, I mean, he's got like a stellar cast now, especially even back then. It was like, you know, everybody talks about the Brat Pack of the 80s. These were like the 90s Brat Pack people that were like the teen idols of that time. So Ryan Phillippe, you had Sarah Michelle Gellar. I wanted to say Sarah Jessica Parker. There's now. And then Selma Blair, who was just here. I mean, like, I wish I would watch this movie, then met her and be like, wow, you know, what a different, like, craziness, right? And then a bunch of, like a whole slew of people in that movie. So I mean, that movie is, without anybody who hasn't watched that, I won't spoil it either. Let me just say, what in the Jeffrey Epstein Island was going on with that film? Because it was wild. I mean, it's just so many dark twists and turns, and it's a cruel watch. And for some reason, there was something about it that felt normal when it came out. And people like gravitated. It's like, yeah, great performances. And it's so, you know, if you're a teenager, it's like, oh my God. But it was like, so weird for a movie. And so Selma Blair, pre-Hellboy, of course, was in it, and she like did really great with it, you know, along with Reese Witherspoon and everybody else is a part of it. And then then of course it connects to another superhero, which another veteran of sorts for Veterans Day or Memorial Day, Chris Evans, Captain America. Hello. So before Johnny Storm and Fantastic Four. Well, yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the time frame in which not another teen movie came out, which Chris Evans appeared in, and he was like the jock, popular guy that was the cruel one, of course, in that movie, and that's just as much as I'll give away about that. And it was playing off of all these movies, that Cruel Intentions and all the '80s rom-com stuff, whatever. So that was just funny. Like, I had never watched Cruel Intentions. I watched part of it one night, and then the next day I'm like, well, I'll continue watching it and see how it ends. And I was just mind blown. Like, I couldn't believe that was an acceptable film. I mean, I'm not saying it's like a bad film. It just was weird. So I suggest, if it's still available for free, because that's usually how it works. You watch it once and then they want to charge you the next time to watch it. If you're flipping through Amazon, you got nothing else to watch, check out some of those old weird 90s movies that are like teen movies with some of these people, because Cruel Intentions was definitely like, whoa. And so, yeah, I watched that, and that just kind of ate some time up on a late night. So going back to this Boys series finale, and I'm not going to, no spoilers. I'm not going to say what any of the plots, I think some of it's already pretty much all over TikTok or social media or the internet, how it ends and how a certain whoever person, however, may be deceased at the end, if you haven't watched it yet. I just want to say The Boys as a series in general, it was this big thing, kind of. I mean, it was when it released. If you didn't understand the comics and where the source material, how it was inspired from, then, you know, if you're just a complete novice or intermediate to comics and you're like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. And it's basically a satirical parody of the superhero network, or, you know, anything comic book related. So, I mean, every character is a takeoff of something you can relate to, whether it be Superman or Captain America or Aquaman or whatever, right? And so we've all kind of gotten to know Homelander for the most part. Even if you haven't watched the show, if you pay attention to comic books, you'll see his likeness everywhere, and in comparison to Omni-Man or Superman. And so there's certain elements of the characters I really did like as characters, and then there's certain elements of the series that didn't lend well to the characters, if that makes sense. I'll say that the boys is pretty much like a very lewd and crude kind of version, like a dark, like a black web version of comic books. I mean, it's very violent and gory, and the language is obviously explicit. And I'm not, it doesn't, like, I don't clutch my pearls, that kind of thing, because I watch horror films and listen to really raunchy stuff or whatever. It's just that, to me, I know they were having fun with it, and it was kind of and I know Seth Rogen was involved with a lot of this before it released too. So I mean, his humor is very kind of off the deep end at times. So it just, they wanted to be a very, like, shock value is kind of the best way to describe it. If you turn on a thing that comes onto Amazon of all things, and you flip it around, and you're like, holy cow, there's blood, there's gore, someone's getting a head blown up, this is getting, whatever. And then you hear the language in between that and the dialogue. I wasn't a fan of the dialogue being excessive like it was. I mean, the gore, okay, it is what it is. I mean, you would expect it. It's actually more grittier, street level, and like what you probably expect out of an actual battle between people that have superpowers. I mean, some blood and is going to be shed, and it has to also be kind of lent to what you see in Invincible. I mean, we've experienced certain things in Invincible. It's like, holy cow, that just happened to so and so, and you're like, how does that person survive that? So it's like Invincible and The Boys are kind of complementary of each other in terms of their style, their themes, and their rhetoric and everything that they push. And a lot of people were getting upset with some of the political tones with this season of The Boys. It kind of went into this weird realm where it's like, okay, like, why are you taking it that direction? They had to find a way to make the major plot happen at the end. And so, again, without giving anything away, it's just, there's certain elements of what I saw this season that I was like, okay, that's a little bit like, you're kind of just taking this a little excessively, but whatever. And then again, the dialogue, I'm not a fan of it. I've never, like, I wouldn't say I enjoyed The Boys. I didn't mind it. And that's probably like a weird hot take to some people, like, how could you not enjoy it or whatever? And it's different. I like I can appreciate the uniqueness of it. It's just not my cup of tea, right? So I like, and I'll just say this as a scenario or example. So, like, hey, I like 80s, 90s, 2000s metal and rock music, but I don't like new metal. And that's not really true. I'm just saying that as like a scenario. You could say you like DC, Image, and Marvel, but I didn't really like The Boys. Like, it just, it's an acquired taste for most people. And in the long run, I think the finale did a pretty good job of kind of like healing it back a little bit to keep, like, it felt like the dialogue was trumping some of the events because I even my father-in-law watches this thing, and he's not a comic book guy, but he would be like, oh yeah, like, get all excited about the gore or the lewdness. It's very, almost like, lends itself to, I hate to say this, it's almost like divorced dad rock, like, it's cringy at times, and but you have to appreciate what it lends to a certain audience, right? And so older people that are very grittier probably really enjoyed The Boys because it's kind of that biker humor or whatever to it, and that's just not everybody's thing. And but I think the characters were well thought out. I thought that the mission and the objectives was pretty well done. There's certain ways that some of these characters just didn't always win me over. So that's just my personal feelings on it, I guess. And I guess it had to come to an end. And I'm already seeing some input and feedback from some of the fan base that says that they didn't really, there's certain series that get written off, and it almost as if like they written them off too soon, or they didn't give them a proper ending. And some people are already feeling like the build up to the ending of the series wasn't well thought out, and maybe a little bit, maybe somewhat rushed, or didn't have that like that crazy, you got to have this like breathtaking moment and then it ends right to like the peak and then like boom and it kind of brings you back emotionally. I think of like what happened in Walking Dead with Negan. Like they had all this momentum built up, and that was in like a lot of people say Walking Dead, the TV series, died after like what with Negan's intro, the whole like sitting around in the fire and all that, because then no spoilers. I try not to spoil anything, but there's the events that take place after Negan's intro that kind of ruin it for people. And some people are like, well, it needed that dramatic change of pace, and it's fitting to the comics. So it is what it is. And that's the same thing with certain, like with the boys finale. It didn't feel like it kind of was just kind of moving through the steps and then got to the end. And so I get where some people are upset about that. Because I like that whole, like, even if you do know and you're spoiling it for yourself by reading ahead or hearing it through other sources, you still like get that, like, just like getting on a roller coaster, you're going to hear the clicks, you're going to get at the top, you're going to stop, and you're already still thinking, I knew what I signed myself up for this, and here comes like the first hill, so it wasn't really that with the boys series finale, but the ending was pretty well acted. So I can't put into a number. I guess I'll try to put a number to it in terms of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, 10 being best. I would say it's probably a 6 to 7. 6, 7. Oh damn, I did that. No 6. We'll just do 7. I'll give it a 7 because, I mean, it was well implemented, especially for Amazon series, which I'm not saying that's a knock on Amazon. It just feels like you don't expect certain things. You didn't expect Amazon to have the gutso to be able to put together some really good production stuff. And they did a really good productive thing with the show. And getting some really good names involved with it and actors, and the acting wasn't bad. It just, the dialogue to me was a little excessive at times. Like, do you really have to make every 5 minutes some like cringy joke? Some people are like, love that. Some people are not a fan of it, and that's just me. So yeah, if you haven't watched The Boys, give it a go. If I think you either love it or hate it after the first few episodes, or even maybe the first couple episodes. You say this is for me or it's not, and you have to kind of like decide whether you're going to keep going from there. So, that's over. Now we're all stuck in our homes without anything but rewatching things and waiting for Brand New Day to come out. We're still waiting on the Doomsday trailer to come out, and that's been like, geez, what a way to tease us with that. And with the series finale being over, there's the big debate now with The Boys of we've got a good taste of Invincible in us. We've gotten everything we can get out of The Boys from Amazon, and then we just got the recent Superman in the last year. So the greatest debate is who is the stronger of the three: Superman, Omni-Man, or Homelander. And I had to think about this before I went to hit the record button, because there's some things that you have to come to plate with here. Okay, so Superman's Mr. Wholesome. He will only really try to kill you if he has to. I think that's kind of the DC way, right? We don't want to kill people. We just want to let them linger along and keep causing havoc across the earth that they live on. And then Superman's obviously got his weakness is kryptonite, which if you watch James Gunn's Superman, you feel like even with the kryptonite being a big issue for him, it's still like there is some major problem. Well, he still has a weak point when it comes to battles of someone that matches him. And so with that said, you have to consider that like he can be broken. I mean, there's been comics where he's been killed and then brought back to life and went through a whole trial and tribulation with all that. And any of these guys can really have that said for them. I mean, I guess that not really, but you would have to think the same process could be involved with that, right? So, and then you have Omni-Man, who's a Viltrumite, and Viltrumites are just merciless warriors. I mean, they just are built on just destruction, death, and pride amongst themselves. So Omni-Man, and there's not really, I mean, they have the one weakness is that they can get sick from a virus or, a plague can take place. So that is the one flaw, and they can kill each other pretty reasonably depending on their strengths. And then you have Homelander, who, as a character, he's written very, how do I want to say it? Kind of contradictory to who he is. So he's kind of got these contradictions amongst himself. He's very visceral. He's very uh, nihilistic, and then he's kind of also a sniveling. He kind of like he's like a sniveling bitch. I don't want to use swear words, or not even a swear word, but just saying, he's just kind of a wimp at times. He gets kind of like tripped up in his own shadow, if I could say it correctly that way. So he's got his own flaws he has these different mental stigmas to him, and so there's Omni-Man, Superman, Homelander. So I would say Superman probably falls rank 3 because he has compassion, and I think he has to pull a lot out of himself to finally like really be just like hardcore killer. I mean, other than like you see like his mind, if he gets mind controlled by something that takes over him and makes him really dark, bizarro, whatever. But then Homelander's just got like, he's ruthless in some cases with people, and if you're in his way, he'll do everything with his power to stop you. So I think Homelander takes out Superman just because he just doesn't care. Like, if Superman were to try to reason with him, that would be probably his fatal flaw, is trying to bring Homelander the justice. I think Homelander would probably just zap the hell out. I mean, he wouldn't probably put his vision on him. And we've seen Superman lose to like, granted Kryptonite's usually involved, but there's been things, even the last Superman installment in film form, that was like, man, you really, like, he is not as strong as we've seen him in other iterations of his character. So I think Homelander could take out Superman. Now it comes down to Homelander and Omni-Man. The Viltrumites have this, it's joked around, they're like the flat hand, like the bitch slap, but it's like through your gut instead of across your face or whatever. Like, that's their like their one move that seems to be like all end, be end all, whatever. And so Omni-Man also, I mean, there's still more powerful Viltrumites than Omni-Man. And so that can womp on him. And if you were to put like Thrag in there, Thrag would probably just in no time kill Homelander. But if you put Omni-Man against Homelander, I think it would be a pretty even keel battle for a minute. And then I think Omni-Man just starts edging him out. I really do. Like, I think Omni-Man is just so rigid. He's so well formed. I think his mental stability has an advantage over Homelander, because Homelander can kind of get a little bit like rattled in his brain if you start like really, if he starts seeing a weakness within himself. I think he starts like getting sloppy. That's my personal take, is so that Omni-Man has this like, he eats practice fights for breakfast. He just like, he's like, let's go work out. Like, Homelander's too busy trying to be a god, and try to be overall, like the overall power over everybody. While Omni-Man doesn't really care. He doesn't have that. I mean, he's had that mindset in times of like, he has a goal, but he just is just like, let's just do business, So I think Omni-Man would kill and destroy Homelander and Superman, and I don't doubt that at all. I think he's got that one move with the hand, flat hand, where he just like, oh, right into your stomach, and there goes your intestines. It's just, sorry, that's gross, but that's been done. So I mean, I think that's what he does. I think he unleashes, and I think I think he will have an easier time with Superman than he would with Homelander, but he would still find a way. So that's. You can debate me on it. That's fine. I agree to disagree. I'm all about a positive spin on this podcast. I'm not here to cause friction with the comic book community. That's my reasoning behind that. So if you're listening and you want to bring up the debate, you leave a comment on my Spotify or on YouTube about it. That's, hey, like, hear my reasoning out and then use that as your reasoning to believe why I'm wrong or right. So But yeah, that's the big debate. I didn't realize I'd actually eat up this much time talking about. I wanted to have more topics lined up, but I think this is a good way to kind of almost start closing this out. So, again, my social media is Chuck the Comic Guy on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. I don't spell it any other different way other than Chuck the Comic Guy. It's not Chuck the Comic Guy 6969 420. It's not Chuck Comic Guy missing the. It's just strictly Chuck the Comic Guy. So if you've already listened to this, you've found my accounts somehow, some way, at least one of them. So give me a like and a follow or subscribe on YouTube. And again, I appreciate everybody that pays attention and gives me a follow and a listen or contributes some sort of feedback or input and comments and likes and stuff. So thank you so much. And until next time, here we go.
Let's cut out of here.